Hey everybody, this is your host Sophia Nelson and welcome back to the Redefining Freedom podcast. I wanted to pop on here and talk about the events that we are now dealing with in real time that frankly are amazing and astonishing and disturbing and upsetting and unprecedented when it comes to the behavior of the sitting president of the United States of America. I want to talk specifically about the behavior towards universities, the behavior towards those who are being deported out of this country allegedly because they are either gang members, violent criminals, etc., a threat to the domestic tranquility. And I want to talk about law firms, my old profession as an attorney who worked in one of the Big Ten law firms. And I want to talk about those three events, those three things that are happening right now in our country and why you ought to be not just alarmed about them, but figuring out how you can engage your members of Congress, your U.S. senators, and other elected officials in how we put a stop to this. Let's start with the obvious troubling events of the last 2 weeks, which are these tariffs. And the reason the economic instability is so important for you to understand is because the fact is, if you want to destabilize a country, you want to destabilize a government, you attack its financial underpinnings. When Joe Biden left office, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, a conservative, a MAGA, whatever you are, facts are facts. And I know that we have gotten away from facts in this culture, in this political discourse of ours over the last almost 8 years now since Donald Trump has been on the scene. I want to be very pointed about what I'm saying. Donald Trump is the problem. Donald Trump is a cancer that has infected this great republic of ours in a way we have never, ever seen before. Not even Andrew Johnson, who was the first sitting president to be impeached. He was Lincoln's vice president. He assumed the presidency when Lincoln was assassinated. Not even Andrew Johnson and all of his incompetence and his Confederateness and his Southern racism and everything that he brought to bear to the presidency. Even when he was impeached, he was not as bad as the sitting president we have now. Let us not forget that this president that we have, number 47, was also number 45. And number 45 was impeached twice, not removed by the Senate, sadly. And I think if you were to sit with Mitch McConnell now, as he is approaching his twilight years and his old age and leaving the Senate after this term, I think he would tell you that he erred greatly in not making sure Trump was removed after January 6, 2021. I want to go back to facts. Joe Biden left a robust, growing, yes, there was some slight inflation. Folks, this is normal. Economies experience inflationary events. They have great periods of growth. They have great periods of wealth. And then sometimes they hit slumps. We haven't seen a Great Depression, thank God, since the 90s. I fear that we could see that again. I'm an econ major, but I'm not an economist. And the world's great economists, the great economists here in this country, there was one on this weekend on the talk shows that I thought was phenomenal because he put it into context that he's not just worried about inflation or a recession. He's worried about a collapse. And what happens is when you start trade wars and you start tariff wars, particularly with countries like China that are 4,000 years old, very disciplined, very consistent, they know how to be long-suffering. They know how to endure pain. Their people are trained in this. They don't enjoy the wealth we do. They don't enjoy the freedoms we do. So you have to put these things into their context. Europe is not happy with the United States right now. The posture that we've taken in the war that Russia nakedly and aggressively prosecuted against Ukraine is one example of how the United States has abandoned NATO, has abandoned our leadership role and our principles that we've held fast to for the last 70 plus years. Donald Trump is a cancer. Donald Trump is an infection. He is a menace to this country. He is a clear and present danger to the constitutional order. Right now, he has disobeyed a 9 to zero Supreme Court order that made very clear that he was to return that man, Mr. Garcia, that he was to return this man and facilitate it. He brings the dictator as president of El Salvador, a country that's a third world poor country that we're paying millions of dollars to take our people to their prisons, right? And then this man sits in the Oval Office, by the way, without a tie. And it didn't seem to offend Vance, Trump, or Rubio at all. Funny that they attacked literally President Zelensky. These are pro-Russia, pro-communist, pro-authoritarian forces that have overtaken the government of the United States of America. And if you don't see it, you have a problem. This isn't about party loyalty. This isn't about whether you're conservative or liberal or Christian or Jewish or whatever you are. This is about the United States of America and our constitutional order and how this republic was set up 250 years next year, next July. We're on the cusp of our 250th year of birth. And this is where we are. We are not in order. The President of the United States is defying the Supreme Court. He's defying the courts. Those are Article 3 judges. Those are equal, co-equal branches of government. The Congress has just capitulated. It's gone. It's dropped out. They've given away their authority over tariffs and trade. They've given away the power of the purse. And that's because the Republicans control the House and the Senate. Be clear who's to blame. The Democrats are just sad. I don't know what to say about them. But the Republicans are the problem because they could put a stop to this. I want to go back to a couple things. Number one, this did not happen overnight. These things never happen overnight. Donald Trump's lawlessness and his authoritarian instincts and his egregious and unconscionable conduct, talking about snatching American citizens off of streets and putting them in prisons now, and trying to do it under the ruse of, oh, I'm cleaning up America and I'm making America strong again. Unilaterally putting tariffs on our friends and our neighbors, attacking Canada, who's never done anything but be a good ally and a faithful friend in wars and otherwise. The same with France, the same with Europe, even Mexico. They are a trading partner. They are on our southern border. And I understand that we've had a trade imbalance. You will get no argument from me on the fact that we need to fix our trade policies. They've been broken since I worked at the U.S. Chamber in 2009 when we gave China favored nation status. Why did we do that? Because the boys like Trump, the rich billionaire boys who are always about making money and who would sell their mother to make money, wanted to have cheaper labor. They wanted to have plants and factories where there wasn't environmental regulations and where they could run wild and make money. So that's what they did. And now they're mad about the deficits. China owns almost $1 trillion worth of the United States debt, almost $1 trillion. Why would you poke that bear? And you see that their response today was to stop the shipment of Boeing's aircraft in. And they're going to play a very different game with us because they hold the cards, because they hold our debt. So don't be fooled by this bravado and this macho beat on my chest and I'm going to shut it down and we've been treated bad and I'm going to stick it to people and you're going to talk to me and negotiate with me. No, they're not. Countries are not calling. Europe is coming together. Europe is working with China. They've gotten rid of their tariffs on the electrical vehicles that China sends. I mean, the world is working together and we're isolated. Worse than that, folks, worse than that is the fact that the President of the United States violated another order the other day. And that order was that the Associated Press was supposed to return to the White House and return back to the press corps. And guess what? They didn't allow him in. So not only has he violated a federal judge's order about the fundamental underpinnings of freedom, which is the First Amendment and the free press and their access to the Oval Office, to the White House, to the presidency, to be able to engage in our democracy. But then the United States Supreme Court finally weighed in and got it right on this case with this man who was wrongfully sent to this El Salvador prison. They admitted this. Whether or not he's a gang member, whether or not he's a terrorist or whatever they're alleging he is, that has to be proven in a court of law. And even Justice Antonin Scalia, one of the most conservative jurists ever on the Supreme Court, made clear that the Fifth Amendment and the due process of this country guarantees even to those who are not citizens of this country, those who are here with green cards, those who are here through other legal means that we have. Those people are entitled to due process just as much as I am as a birth citizen of this country and just as much as you are. And we should never change those things because that's what makes us the greatest light and nation on earth. That is what makes us the great republic that we are. That is what makes us the shining city on a hill. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Stephen Miller, and all their forces have been radically undoing our system of governance in less than 100 days. And there's chaos. I want to be clear on this podcast, through this foundation that is all about freedom and protecting our freedoms and expanding our freedoms, that freedom is under assault and that it's not a constitutional crisis coming. We are in it. The executive, Article 2, is violating what Article 3 has the power to mandate. This isn't about conducting foreign policy. You're being lied to. You're being manipulated with disinformation and misinformation. Why would you watch a news network that settled for almost $1 billion, $1 billion, $1 billion, a defamation lawsuit over the 2020 elections? Why would you watch a network that lies and manipulates openly so and has been sanctioned as such and has had to settle not just one, but is in the process of settling two, owned by someone who's considered one of the most ruthless, dangerous demagogues in media, Rupert Murdoch, that has ever existed? Why would you subject yourself to that every day? Ask yourself that question. I see the social media. I talk to people. I've lived it. That have family members that they no longer want to be in the same room with, much less visit or talk to. Parents. We have good friends who the daughter cut her parents off. And then when the parents had been scammed out of their money, this woman lost $200,000 out of her 401k. A senior citizen, because she was giving it to these Trump things and to these MAGA things and to these things that were taking money out of their account every month. 60 Minutes did a whole series on this. Don't believe me, Google it, watch it, how people were being scammed out of their money, and it was targeting seniors, people most vulnerable, that most likely to watch that network that I won't even name. And they do it and they're taking advantage of these people. It's a scam. You're being scammed. You're being lied to. And that makes me sad and it makes me angry. Folks, our freedoms are under assault. Let's get to three things and then we're done. Number one, we failed as a country when January 6th happened and we did not hold Donald J. Trump and the conspirators in the Congress accountable under the legal means that we had. It was sedition. It was insurrection. Call it what it was. And doesn't it bother you that all of those people that literally ransacked our Capitol and beat the hell out of police have all been released out of jail? And now they're talking about giving them reparations. We're not paying attention. This is exactly what happened after the Civil War. The Confederates were allowed to be forgiven. Lincoln gave him grace. It cost him his life because a Confederate sympathizer, John Wilkes Booth, in the conspiracy murdered him. And then they went on to revere these people and put up statues to them and monuments to them and emblazon them on the wall. These were traitors. These were people that tried to overthrow their country. Hundreds of thousands of good men dead. They wanted to keep my people, Black people, enslaved. I'm a direct lineal descendant of slaves on both sides of my lineage. And that is where we find ourselves today. We don't have slavery, but we have a group of people in this country, a angry, radicalized minority of populists who are vicious and racist and sexist. They want to wind women back. They don't want women to vote. See the SAVE Act. They want to strip us of our history. They want to get rid of Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth and Jackie Robinson and anybody else you can think of, Rosa Parks, because it offends them. They call it rewriting history. No, they are rewriting history because Black people are a part of the history of this country. We are a huge part of how this country was built and succeeded on our backs. And we are a huge part of the success of this great nation, as are other peoples of color and women That is not something we should undo. We shouldn't strip women like my friend Nicole Malachowski, who was the first female in the Thunderbirds in the Air Force, and get rid of them out of museums as if they don't exist, as if their struggle wasn't different and unique. Why is the U.S. Naval Academy allowing Hitler's Mein Kampf to be in their library, but getting rid of Maya Angelou, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings? Really? Is that who we are? You better wake the hell up, America, because we are in a crisis. We are under a coup. We are under an authoritarian wannabe Viktor Orban nightmare called Donald Trump. A criminal, a convicted felon who talks about criminals, an adjudicated rapist in a court of law who talks about rapists. That's who some of you put into the presidency again, instead of the qualified prosecutor, sitting vice president, former United States Senator, former Attorney General, the sixth largest economy in the world in California, a joyful, decent woman in a good marriage with a good family, who's never been arrested, who's never been prosecuted, who's never been a felon, who's never been adjudicated as a rapist, who's never gone bankrupt, who's never done any of those things, and you chose the other guy. That's something you need to sit with and ask yourself, why would you do that? And how's it working out for you? Not working out good for the rest of us. January 6th was our failure. He should have been removed. He was impeached. And we let him live to fight another day. And now the Supreme Court has given him immunity so he can run wild. And that is exactly what he is doing, to the detriment of all of us. The next thing is universities. Now, you know that this is a spot with me because I lived it. I lived cancel culture. I know what it's like to ask a civil question on my college campus and have a radicalized group of leftist people who identified themselves as LGBTQ plus community, people who decided that they were going to make an example of me and ruin me and protest me and come at me and blackball me, even putting it on my Wikipedia page. They wanted to make sure that for the rest of my life, I wore a scarlet letter because I asked a civilized question about a comic book character who happened to be LGBTQ plus. It's all there. You can Google it. I don't need to get into it. So somebody like me, you would think, would say, rah, rah, Trump. You get them. You show them. You shut these radical lefty universities down and you teach them and you take away their money if they don't do what you say, and you take away academic freedom and you take away free speech. No, that is never what I'm going to say, regardless of the hell I went through, and it was hell. And I detest the people that did it to me. They caused great pain, great harm, great damage, and for no good reason. I offered dialogue. I offered to sit and to listen and to talk and to engage and to hear and to grow and to help others grow. But they weren't interested in that. So the forces on the left that are anti-liberalism, a liberal university, a liberal arts university is what we should all want. Illiberalism is the opposite of that. It's the silencing, it's the mob, it's the taking away, it's the destruction, it's the labeling. And exactly what the right was angry about, what Christian conservatives were angry about, what Jewish students were experiencing after the horrible events of October 2023 in Israel. Exactly that is why I will never support what they are doing. It is wrong. It is unconstitutional. It is not American. It is not liberalism. It is illiberalism. And it is exactly the right doing what they accuse the left of. So you have extremists on the left and extremists on the right, and the rest of us in the middle, we suffer. We have to deal with the fallout. We have to carry the scarlet letter of this crazy behavior that has nothing to do with how this country was founded and what this great country is all about. And we have got to put a stop to it. Bravo, Harvard. Bravo, Princeton. Bravo to other institutions that will not capitulate. Now, lastly, to the law firms. I don't know what's wrong with you, but you better remember the oath that you took. And the oath that you took was the same one I took when we got sworn in as young lawyers. To the U.S. Constitution, to defend it, to protect it. For our profession, when we took our oath as attorneys, we took an oath to something greater than ourselves, to uphold the law. We took that oath, and we have to honor it. We didn't take an oath to money. We didn't take an oath to wealth. We didn't take an oath to kiss the ass of a president who is not a king, because we don't do kings here. And lest you forget, the Boston Tea Party was a rejection and a rebellion against tariffs on tea from a radical bully king who thought he could do it to the people in the colonies, and they said no. And we need to say, no, we're not doing this. We're not having it. Listen, folks, there's no place like America, ever. Jefferson's words, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, and endowed by their creator, something bigger, greater, not man, with unalienable rights, rights that can't be taken away or moved or given, with freedoms that can only come from God, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of life, the pursuit of your goals, your dreams, of financial wealth, of building a business, whatever it is. That's America. That's the shining city on the hill. And she is in peril because a madman has taken her over, and we are sitting here and we are letting it happen because we're fat and happy with our own stuff. And oh, my 401k took a hit. I'll be okay. No, you won't. You might not have a 401k if he gets rid of FDIC and he decides to nationalize or to declare martial law because China is now going to deal with us. And then he's going to say, oh, we have a foreign policy crisis, so I've got to take control of this. Don't be stupid. Read Anne Frank's diary if you haven't. Read it. She opens with, there are terrible things going on out there all around us. It's a young girl whose words live on long past her time here on earth. Lived through the horrors of the Holocaust and World War II and Nazis. You better buckle up. This is serious. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? Who are we in this moment? What are we going to do to preserve this great republic and preserve our freedoms, the freedoms that everybody else in the world only can dream about? That's why people come here, folks, across the border. That's why people come here from all over the world, because they want to be like us. They want to be a part of us. And yes, we have a process. You can't come here illegally. That's not okay. But I get why they want to come here and why they will walk and swim and cross mountains and rivers and drown trying to get to freedom. We must protect and preserve that freedom with everything we have. That's my rant, my challenge, my upset, my worry, my word to you today. This is serious. We are in a crisis. It's not coming. It is here in media. Shame on you. You have bought this. You wanted this. You drove Joe Biden out. You wanted Donald Trump, and you got him. And when you get into that Oval Office, your job is not to be afraid. Your job is to ask the hard questions, even if they throw you out. Kudos to Caitlin Collins. Wonderful young woman. CNN. Good for you for not losing your heart. You remind me of my friend Jim Acosta and what he did during the first Trump term. And we miss Jim and wish that Jim was back and Joy was back and a host of others who have been run out by their networks because they're truth tellers. I'm praying for Lawrence O'Donnell and Rachel Maddow and others, and Nicole Wallace, because they're probably next. Michael Steele, others. All good friends. All good people. We have to protect them. We have to protect each other, and we have to protect this great country of ours. I love you guys. Until we meet again, we'll be back with some guests later this month. Bye-bye now.